Absolutely. Brilla asked if we can go over astrology. So if you're new here, my name's Sandra. I collect old books. Right now we are in the Chambers Encyclopedias printed in the 1890s. So if you look through the page, we've gone over a bunch of stuff, but if there's something you want me to look up, please leave me a comment. So I originally commented to you earlier, I thought the section was way bigger than what it actually is, but I didn't pay attention that it actually switched over to astronomy partway through. So it's not quite as much info as I thought, but we will also do astronomy in a separate video. So, astrology, Greek, science of the stars, in early times was a comprehensive term for the study both of the motions of the heavenly bodies and of their supposed influence on human and terrestrial affairs. Now it has only the latter meaning, the term astronomy having usurped the former. Astrology is one of the oldest superstitions prevailing in very early times among the Egyptians, Hindus, Chinese, Etruscans, and above all the Chaldeans. Its rise may be regarded as produced by the impatient curiosity and desire for harmony of our race. Long ere any regularly operating laws were discerned in national or individual history, they could be seen in the more marked changes of material nature, among which the motions and influence of the heavenly bodies most conspicuously ranked. In the case of the sun, these ruled and vivified the earth. It was natural then to suppose that the overruling power which ordered the apparent chances of human life resided in the heavens, and that its decrees might be read there, the motions of the heavenly bodies proving on trial to be predictable. The astrology of the Egyptians was founded on solar theories. They connected each point of the sun's course with a stage of human existence. To them, its rising, culmination, and gradual descent figured the progress of man's life in youth, maturity, and age. The Chaldeans, or Chaldaic Babylonians, included in their system the other planets also. It was chiefly to their labors and fancies that the ancient world owed its astrology. Their name even became a synonym for astrologers and continued long to be so, and on their system medieval astrology was principally founded, but their astrology was more noble in its concepts than the degraded medieval and modern forms of the science. They considered the stars and planets not as the mechanical powers ruling men's destiny, but as the revelation of the Supreme Being. They held them as incarnations or emanations, sentient beings proceeding from the Absolute Being. Each planet was thus a visible deity. With this mythology, however, was gradually conjoined accurate observation of the motion of the heavenly bodies, see astronomy, producing a strange mixture of science and fantastic imagery. In Rome, astrology found many adherents, though the educated were generally hostile. Cicero, the elder Pliny, and Tacitus declared against it. Seneca, however, believed in the influence of the stars on men, and astrology profoundly influenced the Alexandrian mystics and the Neoplatonists. The spread of Christianity in the West and later of Mohammedanism in the East entirely altered the character of astrology. But by both, it was robbed of its polytheistic element, but the Arabs, as fatalists, found its tenets more congenial. Under the caliphs Al-Mansur and Al-Bumazar, it was diligently cultivated and is still accepted by the Arabs everywhere. How inwrought in Mohammedan society it became may be seen by any student of the Arabian Nights. To Christianity it was less akin, though its influence appear in the beautiful story of the wise men of the East journeying to the Savior's cradle. These were most probably Chaldean magi and astrologers. Some of the early fathers, however, accepted or modified the doctrine of astrology. Clemens, Alexandrius, Origen, and Augustine all protest against it. By later church authorities, it was regarded as obnoxious and several times publicly condemned. But by many zealous Catholics and even churchmen, it was cultivated. Cardinal Diali in the 15th century is said to have calculated the horoscope of Jesus Christ and maintained the astrological predictability of the deluge. Louis XI of France, among his many superstitions, numbered also this and maintained for long the astrologer Galodi. Nostradamus was the great astrologer of the 16th century, during which, though the most learned and powerful minds continued to cultivate the science, it gradually declined from its former position of credit and power. It could not endure the double assault of the Reformation and its accompanying spirit of true scientific inquiry. Tycho Brahe, Kepler, and Gassendi represent well this stage in its history. Their own discoveries with those of Copernicus and Galileo sapped its foundations, though they could not shake off its influence on themselves. Protestant theologians like Melanchthon, I'm probably saying that wrong, cultivated the science. Paracelsus and Cardan combined astrology with alchemy and medicine. Burton of the Anatomy died about the date he had himself forecast. Robert Flood and William Lilly in England represent the latest period of the public power of astrology. The latter especially is well known by his almanac, his prophecy of the Great Plague and the Fire of London, and his claim to foresee the fate of Charles I. He was even for a time pensioned by Parliament for giving information. Dryden had his children's nativity reckoned. With Newton, astronomy emerged from mystery. His conceptions extended the terrestrial laws of the planets, the sun and stars, in his words, but great earths vehemently hot, could no longer be viewed as rulers of destiny, and astrology thenceforth passed into the hands of quacks and pseudoscientists, only an isolated effort being made here and there to rehabilitate it. For great solitary minds, astrology has ever had an attraction. Wallenstein was a complete believer in it, and Napoleon I often spoke of his star and his destiny, and through them was accessible to flattery. A modern astrologer declares that Napoleon and Wellington were born, the one under Saturn, the other under Jupiter, in the house of dignities. Hence, Napoleon's dignities were misfortune to himself and others. Wellington's were beneficent and finally superior. The astrologer was not a Frenchman. One of the last professed astrological authors of standing was Pfaff, I'm assuming that P is silent, in Germany, who published his astrology in 1816. Amongst Pharisees, the wedding day is fixed by an astrologer. Natural astrology, the science by which the motions of the heavenly bodies were predicted so far as the knowledge of the time might allow, contained much of scientific value and is now absorbed in astronomy. The science of judicial astrology, which studies to predict terrestrial occurrences by means of the heavenly bodies, is simple. For its purpose, the celestial sphere was divided into 12 sectors called houses of heaven. The surface of a peeled orange appears divided in a manner which fairly represents these. Place the axis of the fruit horizontally in a north and south line, then the divisions of its surface will represent their positions on the most common system. If its axis be inclined so as to point either to the pole of the equator or elliptic, it will slow the houses on other less common plans. These houses are supposed fixed, and the planets in their diurnal and orbital movements thus pass from one to another, traversing them all in a day. We shall use only the common system in explaining. On this, as the astrologer stood looking southward, he would have 6 houses divided the visible heavens, in order from left to right, the horizon dividing these from the 6 below him. In 3 ways, these houses differed. Their power depended on their position, the one containing the stars about to rise being most powerful. Okay, we'll stop right there. Come back for part 2.